We have in the house today the one and only Darrell Barron. If you have watched the NFR or Cheyenne for any length of time, you've seen a shoot boss with his pants shotgunned and walking around pointing saying, "You're next." And this is him. 30 years at the NFR. Welcome to my good friend, Mr. Darrell Barron. But real quick, before we get started, I want to ask you about your bits and spurs you've been making.
Been making bits and spurs. I actually started making bits and spurs, making spurs in high school as a project to have something to do. I got interested, and my my instructor really got interested in it too. So he helped me make all kind of jigs and different things, and that's how I started out. And of course, back in those days, mostly what I was making was bareback riding, bull riding spurs, a few steer wrestling spurs. And so when I went off to college, that's how I made all my entry fee money, was building spurs all the time.
Dang.
And
so do you do bits at all? Or?
I do. Yeah, I started making bits about 15 years ago, and but I quit for years. All the years I lived in Colorado and worked for Harry Vole, I never had time, to do and work on anything really big. But about 25 years ago, I got interested again in building spurs again and got acquainted with Robert Campbell in Amarillo. And Robert got me really interested, helped me get some good equipment together. He had great equipment. He was, him and his son Leo, they built unbelievable business, Campbell bits and spurs. And Robert really helped me tremendously. And of course, I had all the functionability of building spurs, but he showed me so many shortcuts and different things. And of course, I shared with him many shortcuts about efficiencies and all the different ways to cut metal out and stuff that were today with the water jets. They had just came out about then, and getting Robert kind of over into thinking about stuff like that was a hurdle, because he was just used to do. I've always done it this way. It's how we're going to do it, And but to make more product, you got to have product on hand. Yeah. So anyway, but I just really worked at it, went to a few engraving schools, got to go to school down there at Alpine to Johnny Wyertz. He was just passed away here a couple of years ago. He was unbelievable graver.
What do I got to do to get on your list for spurs?
Just tell me.
Okay.
Just tell me.
Sweet.
I don't have too long a waiting list right now.
Good. Well, put me down. I'd like to have a set. Yeah. Well, how much are they? We'll talk about that.
We'll work out a deal.
Yeah. Okay. But I'm thinking put me down. So
I got you. I got you.
Cool. Well, we're going to hear some more stories from the NFR, some stuff you've never heard. And this man got to see it up close and personal for 30 years. What year was this picture?
72, maybe. 71, somewhere in there. At the old Astrodome.
Oh, is that the same?
Yeah, same one.
Same picture?
And like I said, I think he got like 6 or 7 of them on that same horse.
Oh, same ride, I mean.
Yeah, from the same ride. Yeah, he kept clicking them from that. That horse was real photogenic. He hung in the air like that,
Yeah.
And there's a lot of pictures. In his books, there was a lot of pictures of guys on that horse.
What was the horse called?
Rockin' Robin.
Rockin' Robin. Dang. Where was this?
At the Astrodome.
Oh, it's
at the old dome.
Yeah.
There was 45,000 people in there that night.
Dang.
And I can't remember if it was that night or the first night I was up, but the Jackson 5 was playing.
What's the Jackson 5?
That was Michael Jackson's family.
Oh.
That's how they started out, as the Jackson 5.
Dang.
And it was funny, that yellow section was nothing but black people.
Uh-huh.
It looked like a black school bus, and when they got through, they was gone.
Yeah.
There was nothing but yellow seats left.
Dang.
There's one picture, and there's a story behind that one. You'll see it when you get to it.
This says Pueblo, 1975.
College rodeo, yeah.
Yeah.
I worked 5 events. Went to college finals twice in 5 events. Won the steer wrestling there 1 year. Our team was second 1 year. We got beat by 9 points to win the team title. And the next year we was third.
What's up with this in Odessa? Looks like you got a...
That's a story.
It kind of looks like you almost want to spur him with a bareback rigging, but that looks like a bull rope.
It's a gate rope.
Okay.
There's a story there.
What is it?
Well, Doug Vold. You ever heard of Doug Vold?
I have.
Scruffy and I were picking up. So it was on the road rest. They used to start on Saturday night. They'd have rodeo on Saturday night. Then they'd be off Sunday and Monday. And then Monday was all day slack. And then rodeo started to get on Tuesday. So Tuesday afternoon, Doug says, I got to go see Dad down there and get a check. So at that time, oil business was booming in West Texas. And there was a hotel called the Inn of the Golden West. And that was like the premier oil hangout place where all the businessmen hung out. Top floor was gambling and hookers and all kind of stuff. I mean, it was things were rolling out there. So anyway, Frank Hines from Canada, who worked for him in Canada, Canadian Red, said, well, let's have a beer while Doug's getting his check. So, it's 4:35 in the afternoon. We'll have a beer, and then we'll get the check, and we'll go to the rodeo. So anyway, these businessmen started coming in. Hell, we're spurred up. We're ready to go to the rodeo. Well, they started buying us drinks. Well, Doug ain't back. Finally, I looked down. It's like 5 till 7. I said, gosh, damn, it's 5 till 7. We got to get the rodeo. So we got there. We might have had one too many, And the first guy we see is none other than Harry Vold.
Oh.
And he says, if I can find somebody else to pick up, you two won't be.
Oh, man.
And so anyway, we picked up.
Yeah.
So Doug comes down there during the steer race, and I'm running the barrier, and he said, boy, Dad is pissed. I said, you think? He said, he's madder than shit. He said, I told him we was getting on the fighting bulls. I'm like, what? What'd he say? He said, damn right we was. I said, well, which one am I getting on? He said, well, you're from Texas. You're getting on that one that looks like an elk, 110. And I said, you're getting on the muley? That's all we got in Canada. So basically, we had to get on the fighting bulls to reprieve ourselves.
Dang.
So it was kind of like one of them, I got my gate rope and put on this bull, and I told Kelly Riley, hold my beer, one of them kind of stories, And I spurred him in the neck like a bareback horse. Next jump, he turned back, throwed me off, and hooked the shit out of me.
Golly, those are some horns, too.
I mean, baseball bat horns. He knew how to use them.
God, that's funny.
Doug got on his bull. He run down there and went 2 laps around the barrel, and he stepped off. He would not a scratch on him.
Dang, that's funny.
But we were back in.
Yeah.
Yeah, we was back in, Harry, after we sold it for him,
How did you pick up a lot?
That's all I did. I went to work for Harry to pick up. That was my main deal. And I got to run the chutes as an after. He said, we went to Cheyenne the first year, and it was like 2 days before the rodeo, and he said, Big D, I need to talk. That's all he ever called me. Big D, I need to talk to you. Okay, what? Because me and him were tied. I mean, we were close. He said, I got to have you over running them chutes. I said, I didn't hire on run no bucket chutes and no rodeo. I hired on pickup. I got to have you over because Cheyenne was used to, you remember how fast it used to be?
Oh, yeah.
Well, it was faster than that before you came there. We kind of slowed it down a little bit because it was just, I seen too many bad wrecks.
Yeah.
I mean, I seen horses hit head on each other. Anyway, he said it was one of them, when he put this on you, you know you was done. He said, I got to have you.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's how I started running the bucket chutes at a few of them select rodeos. But my main job was picking up for him.
Yeah.
And running the rodeos when we were split up. First rodeo I went to for him, I went and put on.
What year was that?
That was in 73.
Gotcha.
He said, well, we got 2 rodeos going this weekend. I said, yeah. He said, can you put that rodeo on at Garden City? I said, Harry, I've been putting on rodeos for people since I was 16.
Yeah.
I said, that ain't no big deal. So he comes over the first night on his way to Strong City, and me and Joe Dornkamp was picking up and kind of putting the rodeo on. The Dornkamp family were synonymous up there. They'd ran Hall Cinnamons outfit for years. And Harry stayed through the bronc ride. He said, you got this handle. I'll see you Monday at the ranch.
Yeah.
He left.
Dang. So was it mainly stuff for Harry that you shoot bossed?
Yeah, because I worked for him for nearly 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
And we got the college finals. I'd been a contestant at the college finals, and the rodeo lasted. Took forever to have the rodeo. Mm-hmm. Of course, you got 9 events. You had 2 sections of barebacks, 2 sections of broncs, buck about 16 bulls a night. Well, the rodeo was like 3 hours and 15 or 20 minutes. It was forever. So, but they packed that thing in that field house. Was you ever at Bozeman?
No, I never went to.
It was packed. And anyway, I told Harry, I said, we need to get this contract. He goes, why? I said, well, it pays $35,000. He goes, you don't know what you're talking about. I said, yeah, I do know what I'm talking about. I said, my coach is on the board. And so I said, I tell you what, I set up a lunch meeting with him. We'll go talk to him. So we're going back to the ranch. He found out I knew what I was talking about. He goes, we need to get this contract. I said, we got it, because he was just kind of getting back in. Him and Surrey had a big split. When they split up, Harry was left there standing there with 2 bucking horses and 1 saddle horse, and that was it.
Dang.
That was in 1970. So when I went to work for him, he was just starting back up. And the people I worked for at the Cowbell, he bought a lot of stock from them, a lot of bucking horses, a lot of bulls. That's how them guys used to come down in the wintertime. They'd buy bulls down in the wintertime and trade horses, and that's how I got to know him. So anyway, we got the college finals. So I ran the whole arena. I ran both ends. And the first performance rodeo was 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Nice.
Yeah, and we got it down to about 2 hours. I don't know how. I called everybody I knew in Montana to come help.
Yeah.
I said, just come help us get this thing started. And later on, Sean Davis came on board at College of Southern Idaho, and he started helping me. And he said, I got an idea. I said, what is it? He says, these old coaches down there, all they do is stand around and bitch and piss and moan. He said, let's give them a job. I said, like, I'm going to put them on gates and stuff? Yeah. So he gave everybody a job. So they were kind of had a part of it then. So it kind of made everybody, be a part of the family then, And that thing it was great. And that thing be packed for, it was 5 performances. For 4 of them, it was packed.
Yeah.
3,500 every night.
Yeah.
But then people would say it's the best rodeo they'd go to. Hell, Harry would go there. He'd have, at that time, he was taking 16, 17 horses at the finals, which was a lot. Mm-hmm. And he had all his. We had Flying Five. We had Reg Kessler. We had Kelsey Brothers out of the Washington State. It was loaded.
Yeah.
You could get mounted.
So he had the college finals. When did he get
He got it in 77 was the first year he had it. Had Cheyenne the first year in 76. He had Cheyenne for 35 years.
Yeah. Before Stace took it over.
Yeah, and then when long story, I'm not going to get into all the details of politics, but they kind of railroaded Harry out of there.
Yeah.
A couple of them guys from Cheyenne were South Dakotans in red limo. He was the front man for Stacy, and they were all tight, and they kind of run him in there. And I lasted with him for a couple of years, 3 years maybe. I was trying to get 30 years in at Cheyenne too. I had a 30-year run at Copenhagen, 30 year at the NFR, and I was trying to I got 28 in.
Dang.
So whatever. Me and Justin McKee knew we were going to get the axe one day. We just didn't know how long it was going to be.
Right. When did you shoot boss the NFR first?
82. Sean Davis called me, and because we'd been putting on them college finals together, he'd been an integral part. He became the rodeo manager of the CNFR. Mm-hmm. And he called me. He was the president. He said, hey, I want you to come run the Chutes at the NFR. I said, I ain't interested in doing that. He just kept on. He goes, well, you got that college finals going. I said, yeah, talking to one of them college kids, getting them to nod their head is a little different than one of them top 50. Oh, you can handle it. So he finally talked me into it. Yeah. So.
And talking about, why is 2 hours the magical number?
Well, in Vegas, they made it the magical number because they kept saying we got to get the rodeo over with so we can get the people back in the casino. That's what Sean always preached, whether that was actual, negotiation or what, but he said it. He always used that. He said it was. Yeah. And so it was a kind of a magical deal. So the rodeo would start at 6:48 every night, 6:43, depending on how long the opening was. And so the actual rodeo would start at 7, so you'd be through by 9. Mm.
We've kind of been talking about, we were we played a couple of rodeos live, and we streamed them live. Yeah, like Pendleton, and Ellensburg, and Puyallup, and we got to talking about the breakaway, and that was our theory, is that the breakaway will probably never be in the Thompson Mac because it would add too much time.
It wouldn't add 12 to 14 minutes.
Yeah. But is that not too much for them?
I think the rodeo is too fast as it is. People don't even have time to breathe. Yeah. And it's too loud in there. I mean, when you're down on the arena floor and it's loud, it's loud.
For sure.
But they've toned it down a little, and I haven't been there since since I quit running the chutes in 2012, you know. I just had a good run, and the World Series offered me a better deal at the same time, and I had to be over their arena, you know. And you know, when you don't have time to even relax and breathe, I mean, you don't even have time. I mean, the only time they have to relax is when they bring the sponsor flags in, and that's late in the rodeo. And I think the rodeo would be ideal at 2:15, personally.
Well, if you added breakaway, I mean, that would still be clicking, though.
Oh, it's such a fast event. Those girls, you know, they get out of there.
That's true. But I'm saying, like, it would continue on with the speed. What would slow it down, like an intermission?
No, I mean, just let off of it a little bit, not have so much pressure on them guys. When I did it, my timing was I let that pickup man get back to his spot and try to have a guy nodding when he got back to his spot. I tried to keep that timing the same every time. And I use those guys as my measurement for timing, you know. So, but you had to have about a 14-minute bareback riding and about a 19-minute bronc riding and a 20-minute bull riding to make it work.
Yeah.
And if one of those elements on my end didn't click, we had to make it up somewhere else.
Yeah.
We pretty much made it most of the time. I mean, there was maybe a dozen times in the 30 years I was there, we was over a little bit, but it would be like a minute or two, you know.
I'm sure there were guys that were just notoriously slow that you knew, like, when you got to them.
You have to know your people that you're working with. You have to know all their little idiosyncrasies, every little thing that they do. Watch them. Glenn O'Neill would get so nervous when you just tell him there was 3 ahead of him. He did, calm down, Glenn, there's 3 ahead, you know. And then there was guys in the bull riding that were slow. You know, you had to start earlier and stay on. And, you know, guys like Bobby Welsh, he was hard to get him to nod, you know.
Yeah.
And it was Gary McDaniel, that helped me for many years, said, I don't understand guys like him that can ride so well, why you couldn't wait to nod your head to show your stuff, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, he was, there was several of those guys. I mean, early on, there was 3 or 4 guys that were real bad.
Yeah.
Like in Oklahoma City, Jerry Bigley and Jody Tatone and some of those guys.
What year was it? You said 85 was your first NFR?
82.
82. So you got to see, like, when Tuff and Jim and Lane all swapped off on their world titles. What were them guys like in the chutes?
They were slid up there and nodded their head. Lane, you had to nearly slow him down. He just let's go boys, let's go boys, let's go boys. He was just 100 miles an hour. Tough, put his hand in there, pulled it. If one wasn't standing right, he'd lob a sperm right in the neck and get him to stand and nod his head.
Yeah.
Cody, Lambert, same way, slid up a tie. They all just slid up there and nodded their head. They didn't have to have one standing on eggshells. You know, they just wanted one square enough to get a good shot at him.
Yep.
It just started changing, you know. And then the bronc riding, you just see a little bit guys that are starting getting a little older, get a little slower, you know. But for the most part in the riding events, so the horse riding events, those guys got on pretty good. Of course, in the ground rules, you got to be on your animal when the previous animal leaves the arena, ready to nod your head.
Oh, I thought it was just over them.
No, it says it's
like a foot in the seat.
It's very
that's different at the NFR. Then.
It's different at the NFR. It's specific. You've got to have all your gear ready. You got to have your hand.
You got to be on them.
Have your hand in the rigging and be ready to nod your head when the previous animal leaves the arena.
Gotcha. Yeah. So like throughout the year at the other rodeos, I hear it's, you know, I've always heard that you had to be over your animal. Like you didn't have to be on them. Like with a saddle bronc, you had to have your foot at least in the buck and in the seat of the saddle when that animal left. But guys don't really get in trouble if they don't. But I don't know. Some chute bosses will yell at you for not, if you're standing behind the chute when that animal leaves, you'll get yelled at.
Yeah, you're going to get fined. What's going to happen? And it's $250 the first time, $500 the next time, $1,000 next time. It progressively doubles every time.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah. The year that Sid Steiner won the world, I think he had 13,000 in fines.
Golly.
Like he cared.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Same thing happens with Rocker. Yeah, he doesn't care either.
I haven't ever seen him at a rodeo, but just seen him on TV, and it looks like he's always ready. They say he's ready. They say you don't have to wait on him. They say he gets his hand there and goes.
Yeah, he gets fined more for like cussing.
I think he gets fined more for all his extracurricular rodeo stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he talked about it. He just had a documentary come out on Cowboy Channel. It was pretty good. I went to the premiere. Yeah. Yeah, so did you see and notice, it's fun at rodeos to always yell at people getting ready slowly and yell that this ain't the PBR. Were you the first one to say that?
Probably. me or Benny Butler, one of the two.
One of the two. Yeah. Which is funny because all them guys that started the PBR, you just mentioned, like they were the ones that were getting ready the quickest in the chute.
And them guys carried that over into the PBR, but then as time changed and a lot of the Brazilians and other guys came in and, they just started getting slower, Well, they proved to themselves they got slower. They had to put in a time limit, on them. They put the clock on those guys to get them to nod their head. I don't know if they were fining them or deducting points or what they were doing. I never followed it that close. At that time, I was, through with Copenhagen, so I wasn't around the PBR.
Did you ever go? You didn't ever go shoot boss over there?
I shoot boss for the PBR some. Yeah, I did Tuff's deal from the beginning. At 2 years at Cowtown and 2 or 3 years in Will Rogers. But I'd known Tuff since he was 12 or 13. Their family was from El Paso. Santa Teresa, which is right there at El Paso, and they were big involved in rodeo. And Harry had that rodeo, and so I knew them people early on.
Yeah.
And it was. So he called me, said, "Hey, I want you to come run and shoot some my bull ride." And I said, "Okay." So I did it. I did the Challenger 1 year in Vegas for him. I did Cheyenne for him 2 or 3 times. So I did some of those PBRs.
I guess it's just a little bit different for them since it's the only event. It's not like they're having to swap ends of the arena. I mean, they might, but they're bucking bulls the entire time. So you're not having to get barrels in and out and let team ropers come into the arena.
Yeah, there's not a big change of ends going on and personnel and people and different. It's just keeping that thing focused in on bull riding for 45 guys or whatever the magic number was. And
maybe in the early days, maybe there was fewer bull riders and they had to tell them to slow down because they're trying to make sure it's at least 2 hours, the event.
Well, they never had a problem with the PBR being 2 hours, because when you got 45 guys, I mean, it takes to buck 45 bulls effectively, depending on what arena you're in. Like at the Cowtown, you could buck 45 bulls in an hour and a half pretty easy, and it would be really smooth right through there. Catching a pace and keeping that pace all the way through is really the magical thing you're trying to do. You hate to have those ups and downs, the lulls, and the peaks and valleys. You want it to be smooth transition from one to the other, and if you can do that, you can maintain the crowd. If you look at studies of people's ability to be able to stay engaged in something, about an hour and a half is about the max number.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you got to think about those little things too.
Yeah, it's most movies you go to are an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And then maybe 2 hours.
Yeah, like Out of Africa, I think that movie was pretty long for a movie.
Yeah.
I think it was 2 hours and 10 minutes or something.
Did you get to where you were missing picking up?
Oh yeah, picking up to me was the greatest job you could have.
Right.
It was just you're out there and you're out in the mix of everything all the time, and picking up broncs was the greatest thing in the world. And it's amazing to watch these guys today because nobody. I don't know what it is, but Mark Baker and I, who've been lifelong friends, he picked up for Servie all the years I worked for Vold, and he picked up NFR. These guys just don't dally the rein like we did. I mean, you dally the rein on everything, across your neck or whatever, when you pick somebody up. And boy, Harry Vold was adamant about dallying that rein because there was a lot of, I don't know, the broncs seem to be, horses in general seem to be a little wilder back in those days, I mean, they had that wild element, something in them, and they used to see a lot of horses step on the reins, and I've seen several of them break their necks,
Yeah.
And he was always concerned about a horse stepping on the rein, breaking his neck,
That's what my dad used to say. Like he would yell at me to get the rein picked up real fast.
Your dad picked up good.
Yes, sir. Hey, when did you cross paths with him?
Oh, early on, I mean, when he came around riding broncs, he rode in the rookie ride at Cheyenne.
Yeah.
And I think that was when I first came across him. Then I saw him later on down here picking up somewhere for Terry Walls, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Did he pick up for Terry?
Yeah, he picked up for Terry.
Yeah.
He picked up for Charlie Thompson.
Charlie CT, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I know Charlie and Harry dealt in some horses.
A lot of horses.
Yeah. There's the one horse, which I've talked to anybody that was around back then. I usually bring it up. I just think it's funny. But Charlie called the horse Maiden's Prayer. And then
Harry and them changed it to Angel Sings.
Yeah, because he couldn't remember. He was like, something about an angel and singing.
Harry's wife actually was one that changed it to Angel Sings.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we got that. That was an outstanding horse, and not a very big horse. She was small. There was another roan horse, Cactus Flower, that was outstanding that he got from Charlie.
Yeah.
We got several from Charlie.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Charlie, the way Charlie talks about it, you'd think he just did more dealing with swapping and selling bucking horses than he did bucking them at his own rodeos. But I mean that became much more of his legacy, I think, than he probably planned on in the beginning. But I don't know. I guess whenever you go to putting on rodeos, that's just the name of the game. You got to have somebody to get them from, and you got to have somebody to sell them.
You got it.
But I guess it makes sense if Harry was having to rebuild this string that, in those early 70s.
Yep.
For him to have to.
Yeah, there was a lot of that going on, buying stuff to put together. And then, of course, he had already started back a breeding program when I was there, And, you hear about those Took horses and how great they were. And he had quite a few of them Tooks, from the Took brothers. There was a stud, J47 Bucksnort. He was kind of his lead stud. And when he was fresh, he was really good.
Mm-hmm.
And it was typical stud. He couldn't take a lot of bucking, And there was he was a pretty good sire. But there was a lot of them good mares, that came from Tooks that had good success with.
RodeoTime.com is the only website that should exist, because it's the greatest apparel line that has ever existed. So go there now to get a t-shirt, a hoodie, a cap, a vest, whatever it is you need. Go to RodeoTime.com, old son.
What was the story about Harry driving horses? Like, I thought, was that, I guess, maybe back before he was dealing with Survey? He had so many bucking horse that he drove.
Well, in the early days, that when him and Reg Kester were in business together, they would drive horses to a rodeo and put the rodeo and then drive them back home.
Dang.
They didn't have any way to transport them, so they would just drive them over there.
Wow.
I don't know how far they were going, but
right.
We talked about it a little bit, but not a lot, because I don't think it happened a bunch of times, but it happened several times. And they're already getting the rodeos together in Canada, putting them on.
Gotcha.
And
then
that'd be a tough way to go.
Oh my gosh.
You got to start out a week before to go somewhere to put a rodeo on.
No kidding. Yeah, you better have a pretty handy cowboy working for you to make sure they get there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I sometimes our little iPhones will track how far we go in a day, horseback, and there'll be days on some places it'll be 22, 24 miles, and it feels like, oh man, we went somewhere.
Yeah.
But guys like that back then, that was every day, all the time.
Yeah. I mean, like at Harry's place that we were on there in Colorado, it was the smallest ranch in the area.
Mm-hmm.
It was 25,000 acres, which is a pretty good sized place. But the Red Top south there was 165,000 acres. The Butler west of there was 90,000 acres. The Diamond A north of him was 40,000, and the BX east of him was 40,000. So
Wow.
they were all, but of course it takes a lot more country to run one up there, than it does down here.
Yeah.
But it was like from his headquarters to the back windmill, which wasn't even to the back of the place, was 15 miles.
Wow.
So I made many a trip back there to go checking windmills and fences and whatever.
So you lived up there
I lived at the ranch, yeah.
for how long?
I was there the whole time, the whole 7 years I was there,
Gotcha.
And ended up going to college there too on a rodeo scholarship. So,
Yeah, that picking up and shoot bossing, like those are the two. That's the closest you can get to all the action.
exactly.
That's the best seat in the house.
You're right in the middle of it. Ever people said, "You get nervous?" I said, "Hell yeah, you're nervous." I said, you're number one, you're on the time clock down there. And number two, you're worried about making sure everything's going to click and making sure you got all your personnel and clued in and what's going on every night. And you got horses like Vern Franklin's Airwolf. I mean, he was the baddest son of a gun that there was. I mean, the first time that I was around him was in Vegas, and he kicked every board out of the slide gate before we bucked him.
Ooh.
And they had him, the first time I saw him, he was tied in and blindfolded. The first time that we bucked him at Vegas.
Yeah.
And he was a bucking son of a gun.
Man, you got to see them all for 30 years.
Yeah,
Every out.
yeah. Horses like him were, and then, like I was saying, the horses were just a little wilder back in those days. They're not, the horses just seem to be a little more gentle today. I mean, there's so many more bucking horses today, and there's so much depth that everybody has. The breeding programs are phenomenal, but you don't see some of that wild stuff that we used to run into. I mean, every horse is tied in today. In our era, the only time one was tied in was when he needed to be tied in. So when you walked up there and there was a neck rope on one, you knew it would be a fist fight in there before you got your head on
Right.
it,
Yeah, that is something that has changed in my career. Is when I first started, it was mainly the horses that just needed it.
Yeah,
and then there was
a bunch of them that were bad.
I don't remember what year it was, but they were like, "We're going to tie in everything."
We used to tie all them rookies in, and they'd fight so bad in there. And one year I told Harry, I said, "Well, I'm going to blindfold all these rookies." He goes, "What? How you going to do that?" I said, "I got it figured out." So I went. They had, back those days, you had those regular feed sacks that were a toe sack, and I just split them all up to where there was about 8 inches from the top, and I just hung it on their head. Well, they couldn't get it off.
Yeah,
and they wouldn't, and they just stand there, and they quit fighting the shoot so bad. We didn't even tie them. We just put that blindfold on them, and then when the gate opened, I just take it off, and you do them like that, and they turn out there and go.
Dang.
So we did that for a number of years.
What about the rookie bronc ride? When did it start?
Well, it was the first year I went there was in '73, and it had been going on for many years before that.
It had been.
Oh yeah, it'd been going on for many years. I mean, I don't know. I'm gonna say it probably started in the late '60s. I guess when they started having the rookie bronc riding, maybe '66 or '67. You'd have to grill Tom Herzig on that or somebody like that. That their family, his family has been involved with it for over 100 years. Herzig family, so they would know more than Tom would know more about that than I might.
Was it always colts that they got on?
Yeah, mostly young horses back then. Mostly young horses, 2 and 3 year olds. They hadn't been bucked very much, maybe been handled a little bit, and then every now and then slip a few of them older horses in there. But when Harry had it, it was all them. They were rookies, just like the guys getting on them.
Yeah,
2s and 3s.
It's such a I don't know. It's such a staple event now at Cheyenne.
Oh yeah, and they have improved it dramatically, having the futurities with it, And it's guys, because guys today are riding so much better. The rookies are riding so much better. Back then, I mean, they were sure enough rookies. Guys hadn't hardly rodeoed much at all, and today these guys are, they're riding so much younger and they're riding so much better today, and it's good to see those guys have a chance on one that has some timing and rhythm to him,
and has been bucked before,
and have been handled, and
right,
is not a fist fight in the chute to get out on one.
Yeah, I remember it seemed like it'd be like you'd get maybe one that was a dink, or you'd get one that would just explode.
Exactly. It had one of them blow up wild horse fits, and
Yeah.
and then one just liable to just take off, never even break.
Well, speaking of wild horses at Cheyenne, what about the wild mare race? That one's always seemed to get
The wild horse race?
wild horse race.
Oh, yeah, it's Western,
Yeah.
When Harry had it, he used a lot of them old horses he had, that we had. He had a herd of just wild horses, that he raised, and mostly and there were some that were bred for bucking horses, but then there's some that were just wildies, and he had them just to go to Cheyenne every year putting the wild horse race,
Dang.
and they's wild now, broomtails.
Yeah, what is it, a team of 2 or 3?
3 guys.
3 guys.
3 guys, and that's the only place I know if they lead them across and hand them to somebody. All the other wild horse races are right out of the chute.
Right, out of the bucket
And that's
chute.
the only place I know where they lead them across and hand them off to a team,
Yeah.
So it's pretty Western.
And that track is just so big. They got to get, a wild horse saddled, and then that anchor holding them down while the other 2 guys saddle her. And then if they get a saddle on her, then they got to ride that sucker all the way around the track.
And then what's really funny is, they get one coming around there, and they're in the lead, and they're going wide open, and then that crowd starts cheering, and they turn one back on you,
Oh, yeah.
You've seen that a lot of times,
Yeah, hit the brakes. And
Oh, yeah.
well, one thing about Cheyenne that, is pretty unique to Cheyenne is that in the bronc riding, and bull riding too, if they got something out, the arena's so big, so to keep the rodeo moving, while one is in the arena, they'll go ahead and buck another one. Has it always been like that since you've been there?
It was like that. They've changed that pretty much since Stacy didn't have it. They pretty much clear the arena.
Do they?
Yeah, they pretty much clear the arena. That was kind of he told them, we're going to clear the arena before we buck one. And as time went on, them guys got to where you couldn't hardly get somebody to nod with one out there. I never thought nothing about it,
Mm-hmm.
If they were on the north end, and they were heading north, we had you still had 2 acres out there to go be in. And in our area, we just didn't think much of it. If one was stripped and there wasn't nobody on them, they wasn't running crazy, they wasn't going to try to run into you. So.
Well, there were even some rodeos with you guys where it was like, what was it? It might have been even before the 70s, maybe OMAC or something, where they do the mad scramble and buck like 5 bulls at one time, just open the gate with guys on them. So I can see why, if y'all are doing stuff like that at some of those rodeos, I can see why pickup men chasing a bronc on the north end of Cheyenne isn't going to bother somebody.
Jim Shoulders used to have the rodeo across at Arkansas, and the rodeo started. They'd have barebacks, broncs, and bulls in the chute. They'd open the gate all at one time and turn them loose.
Dang.
Yeah,
Yeah, that would be wild.
yeah, that would. I had to pass on that one.
Even just the idea of bucking like 2 bulls at one time
Oh yeah,
is wild.
yeah. I've seen some bad deals in the bull riding when a guy's out there bucking a bull and somebody doesn't get a slide gate shut behind the bull behind opens the slide gate and gets out there with that other bull.
Yeah.
While he's riding one and he's out there and he's trying to run over somebody.
Yep. Yeah, it can be a nightmare.
Oh yeah.
If
And that can happen anywhere.
if the wrong 2 bulls are in the arena at the same time, it's a nightmare.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's but the bull riding, it seemed like they would at least try to have a rope on a bull before they bucked another one.
Yeah, I never did ask anybody to nod their head in the bull riding until we had one at least roped.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird they don't have the rookie bull riding. I mean, I feel like that would be something too.
Yeah, they do in Canada. They have the steer. They have the steer riding.
Is it at Calgary?
Calgary has the steer riding. And they have the rookie broncs and the rookie bears. But I guess that's the only rodeo that I know that even has rookie events during their. I mean, I'm sure there's a few more out there, but Cheyenne and Calgary, they've always promoted their rookies deal.
Yeah, I got there's a kid here on the media team. I say kid, he's 30. Cole Snyder. He rode in the novice bareback riding at Calgary.
Who did?
His name's Cole Snyder. He's out there. He but I thought that was pretty neat that they had. I like it better being called rookie rather than novice, but
Yeah. There were some kids that could ride. It was at Calgary this year. They could really ride in both riding events, horse riding events, and the bull riding too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good watching.
What have you noticed since how has the sport as a whole progressed?
Well, the progression of the sport, obviously is the money, but the depth of contestants in every event. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, there's, used to be, there was like 10 or 12 bareback riders that were kind of elite guys that they won most of the money. And today, looks like to me, there's 35 guys out there that could win first any time, and the bronc riding the same way. The bull riding has gotten so much better this year. I've seen the progression of the riding percentage is so much higher than it has been. Just watching what I see, but the bull riding has got so much better. But you look in the timed events, I mean, there's 30 steer wrestlers that any one of those guys could win first, and the same way in the team roping and the tie down roping. It's tough, and the breakaway rope, I mean, look how tough it is. I mean, look at the girl last year, Kelsey Domer won the world last year. She didn't even qualify for the breakaway finals this year.
Dang, that's a good point.
Yeah, and so it's, it's tough. And to me, the steer wrestling seems to be one of the tougher events because there's many guys that have only qualified to go there one time and never got back again. And then you got guys like, there's guys that's been there, Roy Duval 24 times qualified. Mike Johnson, I know he qualified 23, maybe 24 in the tie down roping. Al Bach 30 times in the team roping. Matt Tyler, I just met him the other day, talked with him. He's getting we're nominating his horse for our Texas Rodeo Cowboy Hall of Fame induction, Big Daddy, and he went 20 consecutive years. I didn't realize he'd went consecutive. I knew he'd went 16 or 18 times, but he said, no, he went 20 times consecutive in the team roping, which is a tough feat.
No kidding.
Any event. Billy Epmeyer, I think, was he 21 in the bronc riding?
I don't remember.
I think he was 21 times. Roddy Hay went 20 times in the bronc riding. That to me, Roddy Hay is a guy who's a world champion that never got the buckle.
Yeah.
He rode unbelievable.
Mm-hmm. It seems like now going to some of these rodeos, there are so many young bronc riders.
Oh yeah.
Like that. I guess maybe because I have 3 bronc riding interns here. I get 4 now, but it was one of my favorite events to ride in. So I really honed in on it, but it seems like there's just a crazy number.
How about the kid from Ordway, Colorado? I can't call his name right now, but first time I really seen him was at Cheyenne. I mean, this kid rode as good as anybody. Made the short go. Gosh, from
Colorado,
and he has been just phenomenal. He just blew the doors off.
Going to the NFR.
I don't think he's made the NFR, but I think he was like 18th or 19th somewhere in there. But just guys like him that just come up and you don't even, all of a sudden, here they are.
Who do we have from Colorado?
Ordway, Colorado is where he's from. But he just rides phenomenal.
I'm wondering, maybe he put a different town down.
No.
On his deal. I don't know.
He was at Rodeo on the Dunes, whatever they call that Serbian didn't put on.
Oh, yeah.
He was there.
I don't have anybody in the top 50 in Colorado. In the bronc riding, saddle bronc? Or
in the saddle bronc. And he might have been still on his permit.
Oh, maybe.
He might.
There is a kid that won a bunch of money on his permit.
There's 2 of them.
Yeah, I
and
know.
One kid, that shallow water kid from Colorado, he's another one from Colorado. He won. I think he won 113 or 15,000 and was still on his permit.
Gosh, dang. Yeah, and then also just the amount of money that they're making in the bronc riding.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, 15th is at 144,000.
Yeah, I think last year it took 125,000, didn't it?
Yeah. And the bareback riding 15th is 129,000, so just 15,000 less, not that much.
Yeah, not that much
Not
less.
that big of a gap, but
That just shows you that the spread of the guys that are out there,
yeah. First is 300,000 down to 130. When my dad passed, he was getting his doctorate and he was doing his thesis and researching. He was researching why there was a decline in the number of bareback riders over the years. And so that would have been in 2013. He was doing that research, and he had been talking back and forth with the PRCA a lot. And when he died, he passed at a pro rodeo he was picking up. So they sent a little letter to the house for my mom, but all the PRCA. They wrote all kinds of notes because they had been talking to him every day, because he would pester the snot out of them. And they're like, sorry to hear about it and everything. But what are your thoughts on the decline in bareback riding? And
it was wild because, I was still going to rodeos and helping Benny Butler, some of them rodeos run the chutes when they were split up, And, we'd have 2 or 3 bareback riders a night at some of them rodeos. It was awful. There just wasn't I don't know why the decline came about. I guess it wasn't the hype of the event wasn't there. But then Casey Field takes off on that run of his. And he really spurred the movement. I thought, personally, he had as much to do with the movement of them guys wanting to get back in the event again because he changed the style up so big. It's funny, in our era, there was a Joe Alexander, and he rode just unbelievable. Both of his feet were even. He spurred one, toes turned out east and west as you could get them, spurred right to the rigging handle, back down. He looked like a machine on one. And then came along there the Bruce Ford and his style ride, then the Marvin Garrett, and then there was 2 or 3 other guys, Bobby Moat and Wayne Herman and those guys. And then comes along, Casey Field and his style. And that's the style I see most of today, way up in the neck, Of course, the rigging's the way they've got them jacked up there. It's pretty easy to get one spur in the neck. It looks like to me, but it's just so fast, and you got to have fast feet and be able to get to the rigging and get back down and get your feet set, and beat them horses down. But there's, like I said, there's 35 guys out there that any of them could win first. And it'd be tough to judge. I mean, you had to get really critical watching those guys to me. I don't think the judges are being as critical on some guys as they should be because I don't know if they're not in the right position to see it or not, but you watch it on TV and you think, well, man, they marked that guy the same as they did the other guy, and he wasn't really in the neck there, or hit one of the flats or, whatever. And I don't think of course, you got 8 seconds to watch a ride, and it's hard to see every little bitty thing.
A couple questions. So the riggings, when like the early 70s, when some of these pictures you've got on the table here, those riggings, they were rawhide handle. It was
a hard handhold, just like this one is today, but it sat down and flattered on the horse,
down.
and it fit to the contour of a horse, fit more like a bronc saddle would fit. These riggings today, they've got them so narrow. They look like to me they're hurting a lot of horses. Look like to me. But these guys, it's what they make their living with. They got to be able to, have something that they know they can count on their hands going to stay in there because there's so much exposure today. These guys are overexposing themselves every jump, and you got to know your hands going to be in there to be able to do that, because any jump could get you.
Were they a hard enough handle and glove back then that a guy could get hung up?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
In
the early 70s even.
Oh, yeah, there were a lot of hang-ups. One summer, I hung 5 guys that were hung up away from their hands, And, the rigging, as far as that, all rawhide rigging today, they had a palm tuck just like they got today. We didn't have the little tip they got on the edge like they got today, but they got some other stuff in their glove today that's a little different. And the way the rigging's set up, it doesn't take them near as long to get their hand in, but it sure takes them a long time to get their hand out. Watching them pickup men, you know, they make a lap and a half with somebody before they can get their hand out.
Right.
But like I say, these guys got to make a living. They got to be able to keep their hand in the rigging.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and they got to be able to know their hand's going to be in there where they're going to expose themselves and try to make a 23 or 4 ride, you know.
Right.
And I don't fault them for that.
Now I'm trying to remember my other question. I said I had a couple questions.
You know, you can talk to guys my age, and they're going to say, well, you know, the sport is growing. It's phenomenal. The Rocker Steiners and the Shad Mayfields and Riley Webbs and all them bulldoggers, the Will Loomises and all them guys. I mean, there is some great guys driving the sport, and the breakaway roping, what it's done for the sport, you know. Rodeo's on a huge upswing, and I'm tickled to death to see it on an upswing like it is. You know,
I agree.
I would like to see Matt Tyler and I, like I said, who went to finals 20 times in the team row, and he and I were talking about this the other day, that there's no reason that you can't pay a world champion day $1 million bonus.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
right.
They should be. That's the kind of things that they should be striving for. You know, Rodeo Cowboy is bad about looking, you know, a week ahead at a time. You know, and they need some people up there to help drive the sport, an advisory board or something, to say, hey, let's look down the road 3 years down the road, 5, just like a corporation does. They look at 3 and 5 year plans down the road. Like when I worked for Copenhagen, I mean, we had a 1 year plan, a 3 year plan, a 5 year plan, and you were always thinking about where you wanted to be at those times. And that's what they need to do with the sport to drive the sport even farther.
What do you think? I love what you're saying, because I myself as a contestant usually only think 1 week ahead, and the whole sport seems to sometimes do that. I think that when I started making videos, it's been 12 years ago, I quickly began to realize that this way of life was not dying. I didn't think, and I still don't think. And because a lot of people would say that, and I think it was just an easy thing to say, but you know, Chris Ledoux has that song where he says that you just can't see him from the road. And I think that the internet has made it to where you can see cowboys from the road, because, you know, there's guys like
what
me
you
out
did with
here
Derek McGay and those guys.
video. Yeah, you could see what happened at Arizona that week. Yeah, exactly. And so I think that the internet has caused just an insane amount of interest in this sport. Ryan here, he came to work for me. He's an intern. He was a nurse in Missouri and watching my stuff, and came here to learn to ride broncs. And he's been on half a dozen. And you've just got these people that are now privy to this information. And that my whole intern program, all the young people that you saw out there, came here to learn and work, to work and learn about rodeo. Pennsylvania, Missouri, North Carolina, Tennessee, all over. And they're in this spot where they might live in the city or just not around rodeo. I interact with people that want to be in that program every single day, and I get message after message after message. How do I get started? Where do I go? Whether it's rodeo or ranching. And I think the future of the sport is incredibly bright.
Oh, well, no doubt about it. And social media has been such a huge played such a huge role in doing that. I mean, the guys that today have such a luxury of the social media and all the other options out there, you know. And then you guys got guys like Rocker Steiner, who has such a crossover to reach other people with what he's got going on, you know. Mm-hmm. And not just him, but there's other guys out there too. You see some guys in bull riding have crossovers that are doing other stuff besides rodeo, and, you know, the things they get involved with, you know, the weight training and different stuff, you know. It's the sport is on a huge upswing, you know. And of course, it's like everything's cyclical, you know. Everything is always runs in cycles. But, you know, with Tater Sheridan and some of the stuff that he's done, with some of the Western things he's done with 1883 and other stuff, you know, and that kind of helped, you know, spur that a little bit along, you know. The timing of the rodeo and increasing the prize money, those things spurred that thing along, you know. But it's an opportune time for the sport. Opportune time.
I did the judging. It's such a double-edged sword, I feel like. And, with timed events, for the most part, it is what it is. A judge needs to drop the flag at the right time. And yes, so it is like, when does the judge drop the flag? But everybody pretty much agrees. They're either dropping it when the guy's hands are here or here, whatever. But in the rough stock, there's a much broader range, I think, for discrepancy, meaning, or just someone disagreeing. And what's your overall viewpoint of the judging at the NFR? And I think I know where your answer might go, but how do you feel about, just as a whole, like those judges at the NFR?
Just from what I've seen, not compared to when I was there. When I was there all those years, for the 30 years that I ran the shoots, I think the judging was pretty much on. I think those guys were on the same page. And I think a lot of that was that guys that were judging, especially the horse ride events, there were some guys that had rodeoed and rode barebacks and broncs, and they have I think you have a better feel for it. Some of that stuff you just can't teach. You can teach a guy, any individual, how to do nearly anything. I'm just going to give you an example here. You can teach somebody how to do nearly anything: run a computer, saddle a horse, do this, run a camera, whatever. You can't teach a guy how to travel. And I mean, I'm talking about get on the road, put him on the road, send him out there and say, this is your job. It's on the road, living on the road. Some people can't handle it. They just can't deal with it. So if you take a guy and try to explain to him the feel of a horse dropping, like especially in the bareback riding, one's dropping, or in the bronc riding when they're dropping and, trying to pull you out the front end, you can't, it's hard to teach that unless you've had some real firsthand experience feeling those feelings, And there's so many of them guys today that I see that are judging that, didn't compete in those horse riding events. And I think it's a drawback for them. It's a drawback for the contestants. I think they could help that, if they would spend the time and invest the money to really help those judges and really sit down with them and critique what they're doing. I mean, all the years I was there, they never had any judging meetings and next mornings after the night before to talk about some calls that were made. They had some meetings at night after that. But I know, and I'm sure I'm pretty accurate here, that on Monday night when an NFL football game's over, I'm sure Monday somebody's on the carpet somewhere getting questions asked about the calls they made during an NFL game or an NBA game or MLB game, whatever. And to me, there's 5 or 6 calls a night at the NFR that are probably questionable, that need some further discussion to make those guys, help them get on the same page where it's more, they're more consistent in what they're putting out there,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you can't totally fault the guys, because you got to fault the administration for not putting the necessary funds in there to help those guys and getting the right people in there to help them.
Yeah. Well, I know I'm definitely not trying to bring up something to throw rocks at anybody. I don't even have any specific examples in mind. Well, I do kind of have one, but essentially, I
might have one.
Yeah, it's just so subjective, and it's something that is. I think it's a little more black and white for the timed event. At least you just don't have near the people. Kind of questioning the call in timed event, I'll say. But for the most part, I think one thing I will say is that at the local level, whether it's a pro rodeo or an AMI, I think that there is an exceptional difference between, a former world champion, somebody that's been to the NFR, and an amateur. And I think that at some of those smaller rodeos, when one of the wolves does show up, some of the amateur type guys, even at pro rodeos, will throw their hands up like, well, he's going to get bonus points or whatever. And for the most part, I do disagree with that, meaning I think that if you really break down somebody who's been to a couple of NFRs, they're probably turning their toes out more. They're going to beat the horse to the ground, a lot faster. They're going to drag, Anyway, but once you get to the NFR, they all do that. And to me, it's I think that for the most part, rodeo cowboys handle it really well whenever you just leave a world title in the hands of someone who it's just their opinion, when it comes down to it. And I guess I don't really have a specific question. I just wondered what you thought of it, getting to see all those rides for 30 years, 150 broncs, 150 bears, over every year for 30 years. I think that when those judges go to the NFR, they do a good job. And I think that they all want the best ride to win. And I think that's what is done there.
The bottom line is you may not agree with their overall judging or marking of an individual, but the main thing is they get the right guys in the right spots where they ended up.
100%. Yes.
That's the main.
Who cares what they mark the ride?
Yeah, exactly.
I agree.
And so overall, I think that they're getting the right guys in the right spots.
Right.
Most of the time.
I agree.
I did see a rodeo here recently that I totally disagree. That the first, second, I can't even remember who it was. I think it was at Kennewick, the rodeo I'm thinking about. But like first, second, and third, to me, they had that flip flopped actually what it should have been, what I saw. But that's going to happen. Yeah. And then you kind of hit on a point a while ago. You didn't really say it, but I picked it up that you say if a guy shows up at a rodeo and he's in the top 15. And these other guys are maybe not in the top 50 or something, the guy in the top 15 maybe get a few more points. Yeah, that hadn't changed from when I rodeoed. Mm-hmm. I still see that going on, and people I talk to still think that goes on, that a guy gets a few more points because he's been in the top 15 or been a world champion or been an average champion. I saw that blatantly at a rodeo at Mercedes this year. I thought, from a guy that made a better ride than the guy in the top 15 did, but the top 15 guy got a few more points. You know?
There's sometimes where I agree. It definitely can be I remember being.
They were blatant about it, Meyer. They told you got to pay your dues, son. They just flat out told you.
There's some guys like that for sure. I guess one of the examples I was thinking of, we were in Humble and it was an amateur rodeo. It was a membership rodeo, so everybody's there, and the Crawleys were really, and still are, really good. I mean, like they go to AMI rodeos.
Oh yeah.
Like Jacobs has never been above ducking off and going to an AMI. And when they would show up, some guys would just kind of throw their hands up. But if you watch those guys ride, most of the time they are making a better ride, And so I think sometimes and I feel like sometimes the Wright brothers get rocks thrown at them. People say like blue shirt bonus, but Ryder is a pretty damn salty bronc rider, and those toes are gonna turn out, and they're gonna hit them high in the neck. And I don't know. I know there's definitely exceptions, and like we can pull up video, but I think for the most part, the judges are gonna do their best. I know you've got the front row seat for 30 years.
Those guys get a few more points. You know why? Because they usually deserve them. Because the Wright brothers, those kids can all ride, But again, there's 25 more guys can ride just like them too. It just depends on who outdraws who and who has that day, and who makes the least amount of mistakes. Mm-hmm. And to me, to thing that I see today, it looks like guys are riding a lot longer bronc riding. Do you think that?
Yeah, I think that guys are really good at lifting now.
Yeah, well, unbelievable.
I think
the rain handle is unbelievable today.
I feel like, if you took videos and pictures of just, whatever rodeo in 2025 compared to 1995, I think that guys' lifters look different to me.
Well, look at Clint Johnson and Bud Monroe's and those guys, and Buddy Pauley's the guys, and Buddy Pauley could turn his toes out as good as anybody I've ever seen. And they were lifting, but they were right above the swells, where they were lifting. Well, these guys, they got their arm nearly fully extended and got it out in front of one lifting on it. Mm-hmm. But it looks like to me they're riding a lot longer range,
I know that I got to a point, Jacobs and I were college roommates, and about that time, I got to where I shut off. I got tired of guessing with bronc riding. I shut off all instruction, and I just listened to Jacobs. He's a brilliant mind. He's, went to A&M for engineering. And anyhow, watching him, anytime somebody would tell him X and 2, he would go X and 4. And he was one of those guys. And Rusty Wright said he thinks that Jacobs has the best lifter that he's seen in the PRCA. But regardless, I say that just to say that I think guys like that can lift, I could see. I don't know if these other guys do reel it out to him, and give him a few more, but I know he did. I wasn't as good at that. Once it got too long for me, I would go to leaning, try to turn my elbow over and do that whole leaning away from it BS. But it is when a guy can lift really well, it does make for a really pretty bronc ride.
Well, you look at Cody Wright, you look at his hand positioning versus all his kids today, and you can see that they're riding longer rein than Cody was,
Mm-hmm.
And Cody handled his rein well. There's no doubt about it. He had that in front of one. He handled his rein well. The boys all turned their toes out better than Cody did, but I think that's just a progression of time, and talking to these guys today and some of the exercises that are out there available and some of the toning up of your hips and stuff where you can get your toes turned out better, guys are working on those things, behind the scenes, and it shows up in their riding, And you can tell when a guy's getting hold of one, when their foot's doing that, when they're going down the side of one, when you can see their toenails coming out of their boot, you know they're getting hold of one.
Right.
I hope you're enjoying a Ranch Fuel as you're listening to this episode of Rodeo Time. Use code DALE on ranchfuel.com for 15% off, old son. Drink up and use code DALE on ranchfuel.com.
What about the bull riding? How do you feel like it's progressed?
I think the bull riding right now, to me, what I see, that the bull riding percentages are way up. I think guys are riding better right now than they did years ago. I'll give you an example. One year we were at the NFR, and the guys weren't riding very good that year. And Donnie, Gay, and I, of course, we go way back, and most of the time me and him was jacking with each other. So I walked up. I said, I want to ask something serious. He goes, oh, this is going to be good. And I said, no, I'm dead serious here. I said, what do you think's going on here? I said, these guys all got here. They're in the top 15. They can all ride. But why aren't they riding more bulls, Donnie? I mean, the riding percentage is low. He goes, well, I don't think these guys have got any real hard commitments they're facing, like a car payment or a place payment or something like that. He goes, I don't know. He said, but I feel like you do. They're not riding the percent of bulls with the real ability they've got. Mm-hmm. But like I said, in the last 6 to 8 months, I've seen that transition change big time. That Tristan Hutchins and those guys, there's the 5 or 6 of them guys that can really ride.
Yeah.
A Reesty kid,
Wacy Shala, Kai Hamilton.
Kai Hamilton's unbelievable. Of course, Stetson. What's the kid's name from Rio Vista, Granbury, somewhere down there? That I think he made the finals. That kid's come on. There's some guys in there that have really progressed in the last 4, 5, 6 months.
And then I feel like Sage did a good job of really like riding correct. I feel like he was and Stetson too. There's a lot of these guys that just really are very fundamentally just super pretty and will make a bull look even easier than it is. And Sage moved on to the PBR now, I know, but Stetson does it just every single bull.
Yeah, they make bulls look pretty. Like you said, you talk about that, Jim Sharp rode bulls pretty, Lane rode bulls pretty. Tough, he looked terrible on a bull, but you couldn't throw Tough off,
right.
I mean, as far as you look at his style versus Jim's or anybody else or Ty, Tough looked like, looked terrible riding a bull, but you couldn't throw Tough off.
Right.
But there were some guys out there that rode pretty. I mean, Norman Curry, there was a lot of them. Donnie Gay, I mean, and nobody rode any prettier than Donnie did. But you got the Stetson Wrights and the Kai Hamiltons and the Wacy Shallows and Tristan Hutchins, those guys, they ride pretty, They ride correct too.
What's your memory of Jim Sharp like? How do you remember him not only riding but acting?
Jim was just kind of quiet, really, but just always real focused, about riding bulls. I mean, he'd be back there by himself, pretty much just kind of going through the motions, going through his mental game plan before he got on, and got on and showed his stuff. That's all he did. I mean, he was just he was easy to be around. Most of those guys in that area, of him, Cody Lane, all those guys, they were just great to be around. They loved the sport, Cody Snyder, Darrell Mills, all the Canadian guys. I mean, those guys they rode bulls serious now. It was serious. You go back to the guys like Denny Flynn, those guys unbelievable.
Yeah.
Another guy, that could have been a world champion just as easy as Donnie could have been,
Jim, he brings his boy over and puts him on saddle broncs over here at our practice pen.
Yeah, I see that.
And Will, his name, and doing really well. But so he's been to some of our buckouts, Jim has, and he's been on the podcast a couple times, and yeah, just super nice guy. I don't know, I feel like he would have been super fun to rodeo with and real easy to get along with.
Yeah.
I mean, anyhow,
you heard Tuff's analogy about getting thrown off bulls when talking about him and Lane and Tuff.
Right.
Yeah, you said, Jim got thrown off. It didn't bother him because he knew he was going to ride the next 50 in a row. He said, me and Lane beat ourselves up for 2 days, if we got thrown off one.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, he was saying that Lane would get so mad that, you knew he was going to drive. Cody Lambert said this, that Lane would get, Tuff would be throwing something.
Yeah, he'd be having a little maniac fit.
Yeah, and Lane would get so mad, he'd punish himself, make himself drive, and then he said Jim just never bucked off, so they didn't have to, they never had to deal with it.
Jim one time was down there helping Ty, they were going to work cattle, and Ty kept telling him, Jim, don't be late in the morning. You need to be here. We're going to leave here at 5 o'clock, whatever it was. So the next morning, he didn't see Jim, and went there to the bunkhouse, and he said Jim was in bed. He said, Jim, get up, let's go. He said Jim blew the covers back, and he was fully dressed, and I'm ready, Ty.
That's funny. That's funny. Yeah, I imagine having, Ty too. Ty around that time he was probably pretty intense though. I feel like talk about focus
back there getting ready. He was pretty loose and cool, But his mental game was phenomenal. Uh-huh. He was very focused about his mental game. One time at the finals, Jerry Dornkamp and Todd got to be big buddies, and us three are sitting back there before the bull riding one night during the NFR, and Ty had been out. I think we've been 3 performances, and he had rode one past the end of the gate, and he was kind of fighting his head about that a little bit, and he said something. He said, "Yeah, I got to go out there to that trade show tomorrow." He said, "Them people are going to be all over me wanting autograph stuff." And he said, "I need to get me a costume or something." And Jerry Dornkamp said, "Well, go dressed as a bull rider." Of course, Jerry and I thought that was very funny, but Todd, he got mad, and you son of a gun. he left us.
That's hilarious. What I was going to ask a while ago when we were talking about judging, since specifically judging at the NFR, do you feel like for the mark out specifically, stuff like that, a replay?
I totally agree with the replay. I mean, that kind of money and talking about a world title, and I'm glad to see the replay in there, because like I said, you got 8 seconds and it's going by real fast, and you're trying to watch the ride and make sure you're not going to get run over. I'm talking about from a judge's perspective, you're making sure you're not going to pick up men, a bucking horse, and everything else going on out there, and you're trying to focus on that ride. It's easy to miss. I don't see how you can not see the mark out clearly, but unless a horse runs down a gate or whatever, But I think that the replay I think it's phenomenal. I mean, they have it in everything else. I mean, why wouldn't we have it in our industry? I mean, it's just people expect to be able to review something and make the right call.
Yeah. Yeah, that is one. I got a buddy in the bronc riding, and it was, last round, and he got the flag dropped on him, and later the judge apologized because he didn't feel, even the judge felt like, okay, well, he did get his mark. And just like, dang, man, even when anyhow, I think it's one of those things. Maybe they're hesitant because it'll add to the time of the performance. I don't know.
Well, here's the thing about it: the replay, you don't have to make the call right then. That to me is a beauty of it. If you've got somebody in the replay booth making the call, you go on with the rodeo,
yeah,
and you
true.
come back and announce the findings at the time when you have the correct answer.
Yeah, that's true. Just let them judge the bronc ride.
Just let them keep on going on with the
ride.
event, and then you come back later on and say, "Hey, Dale." The judges reviewed the tape in the booth, and we feel like he spurred the horse out, so he's got a score of 89 coming.
Yeah. I guess the only downside to that would be is if if they did mark a ride, the crowd cheers, then they find out he missed his mark out. That would be. I guess I was thinking more like if they dropped the flag, a replay that would pick the flag up.
Yeah,
but yeah. Yeah, I know that we did have replay I did the Kid Rockin' Rodeo, and for 2 years we were the low riders. Trevor and I were the coaches, and it was fascinating. They ran, it was a bracket format. I love brackets, and 2 teams would go at once in the timed event, and the crowd loved the timed event, loved it. Because it's a race, and they can tell who won right then.
Yeah.
And the timed events really outshined the rough stock because they don't really know who won the. Now there's excitement because somebody's riding a bucking horse.
Sure.
But there wasn't the excitement of knowing who won. You had to wait to find out what the judge thought.
It's like the barrel racing and the bull riding have always, synonymously been the two favorite events by rodeo fans, but they're the 2 easiest events to understand.
Right.
Yep. And so you convolute it with the in the rough stock events with all the rules that go on and the timed events, all the rules. I mean, think about the team rope alone. You got the barrier, and you got a leg, you got a crossface, you got all these different things going on that you have to know if you're not a rodeo fan, that you already know this stuff, and it's confusing to people.
Yeah.
That aren't a fan.
For sure. Yeah, especially like something like the bareback riding because it's so wild. And then obviously we've all seen the horse that rears up, pushes off its hind end 2 or 3 times. The crowd goes nuts, and then the guy gets a re-ride.
Yeah.
And they're just so confused.
Yeah.
But as a rider, we know, really anybody's grandma can ride a horse that's rearing up. It's not that hard, especially in a bareback rigging. The only fear is they flip over.
Exactly.
Do you remember any significant wrecks in your time shoot bossing that stand out?
So I'm sure.
Well, I mean, you would have been in Cheyenne when the big one happened with Lane.
Yeah. I was there. There was a period of time in there where I didn't run the shoots for about 6 or 7 years. We couldn't get together on our what the pay ought to be.
Right.
So, no big deal. But I was there working for Copenhagen, and Tuff and Lane, Ty, Marty Stamp, they were all up that afternoon, and we were kind of loading up, getting ready to go home. And I said, I want to go there and watch the last section of bull riding. I mean, Tuff and Ty and Lane and Cody, they're all up this afternoon. Let's go there and watch it, So I was right down there in front of the bucking chutes, when he got hit, and didn't look that bad, but it was, saw that wreck, Then, like I said, I've seen wrecks of a bull on a horse. One of the worst horse wrecks I ever saw was a bull on a horse. Guy got off and went by there, and his stirrup was flopping and popping, and it hangs on a fence post over there somehow, and flipped that horse. Lost him. It was a guy I knew on the horse, and phenomenal bull on the horse.
Dang.
There was a girl there one year in the barrel race. Her horse went around the second barrel, and you could see he had a horse had a compression fracture on his front ankle. I had to pull him up. We had to go load him out there during the rodeo.
Dang.
And then I was here the year that the Thunderbird crashed into the grounds.
Do what now?
You never heard that story, huh?
No.
One year, this was early on, my second year Harry had it, maybe, and it was you couldn't see 50 feet. It was so foggy. And I was going down to feed my saddle horses to get ready to go sort stock. And I kept hearing these big concussions, like, hong, hong. I thought, what in the world? I mean, it's loud too now. And you're looking around, of course, you can't see anything. Well, here come a guy on our crew run up and said, there's a guy hanging on a guy wire in the arena by his parachute. What? Well, about that time, here come police cars, military cars. You know, there's a military base right there. Here they come. Well, this T-38 had come in there. The lead guy had come in there that morning, and he went to touch down. Well, he touched down late. Well, he went to lift up. Lions Park is between the rodeo grounds and the airport, and he didn't get up all the way, and it clipped those trees. Well, it just shot that jet right down on the ground, and there was a bunch of RVs that were out there that morning, and 2 or 3 of them had left, and he guided that jet in between those RVs, went across the track, crashed into a bullpen to kill 2 bulls, and killed the pilot of that plane. That co-pilot got out.
Dang.
Yeah, and that happened in like 5 minutes. That happened, you know. And there's guys down there because slack was going to start at 7 that morning, and there's guys down on the track riding their horses, warming up, you know.
Wow.
Yeah.
And a jet comes through there.
And a T-38 jet comes through there, yeah, and crashes right into the bullpen.
Yeah, that'll mess up a morning.
Yeah, that'll mess up. And that plane sat there for 3 days because it was full of flight fuel. They were afraid to move it.
Whoa.
So we had to work around that for about 3 days with military everywhere, and you know.
Wow. Dang, I had a question. It's hard to do this sometimes. I'm just especially picturing it, having been to Cheyenne. You know, I'm picturing this plane flying through there and got a guy hitting eject. And anyhow, for some reason, it's wild to me that Cheyenne gets the protesters it does.
Where are they usually at, downtown?
I saw well, maybe it's not the amount of protesters. I pulled up to Cheyenne, and it was like it was an intersection just right off the property, and there were people in white pants with red paint on their crotches, and they were protesting circumcision, which I was like, dang, I've never seen anybody protest that. They didn't even care about the rodeo. They were just protesting people that circumcised their babies. Isn't that weird? I was like, man, why would y'all come to the middle of Wyoming at this rodeo to protest that? Maybe, I guess, because they realized that cowboys are predominantly Christians. I don't know. You know, there was a few years that Shark was there. A number of years they were there during the slack, you know, and they gave Cheyenne fits for a number of years, you know. They were a pretty radical group, you know. Yeah. Shark
was. And they caused some issues at the NFR a few years. But thank goodness, you know, that PRC has done a pretty good job of having the right people in place, you know, to be able to deal with those people, and not have any real setbacks for the sport, you know, but there's some of those groups out there that are a little out there.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's promising for the future of rodeo that everybody now has such a high-powered camera in their pocket. 4K, just as high-powered as you can get, comes standard on everybody's telephones now. In the beginning, that's all I did was use my phone. But I say that to say that it's wild that in 2025, you know, there's exceptions to the rules. Just like, you know, everybody we saw in the dairy industry, there'd be that one grainy video of a guy mistreating a dairy cow. But we all know, being part of this industry, that like that doesn't happen. You know, I don't know anybody that treats animals that way. I certainly don't. And then, you know, there's just, with all these phones everywhere, you don't see that happening at rodeos, and you don't see it happening like just on everyday life on a ranch. Like I said, there's exceptions to the rules in every industry. You know, you can, you know, there's there's a-holes that exist out there. I'm not saying that they just don't exist, but our sport is growing in the midst of all this exposure. And so that's one thing that's super promising to me. And what I think is happening is the people on the fence that aren't radicalized, like the shark people you're talking about or PETA, they are seeing, learning, and loving our industry. And because those are the ones that I think you're going to really have a chance to win over. The ones that have already joined shark, like they're a little too far gone.
They're a little far. Well, it's like I was when I worked for Copenhagen Skull. Our big deal was college rodeo when I started with them. So we would go. I mean, our main job was to go to rodeos and do promotion of the college rodeo. So we would go do a lot of radio stuff, a lot of TV stuff, newspaper and whatever. And we were at East Lansing, Michigan one time at the college rodeo, and they had a radio show that morning. Me and this clown was there. It seemed like there was I think one of the queens was there from the rodeo. Anyway, this person called in about an animal rights issue, and I said, and everybody kind of looked at me, and I said, I'll take that question, and basically Harry Vole had just bought a horse in Canada and gave $50,000 for him. This is in 81. That's a lot of money for a bucking horse.
No kidding.
And anyway, I said, this guy just paid $50,000 for this bucking horse. That's like a guy going out and giving $100,000 for some bulldozer or something. I said, that guy that owns that bulldozer is going to take care of that bulldozer and service and maintenance and do everything he can to keep it in operation where it has no downtime. The guy that owns this bucking horse is going to do the same thing. He's going to baby that horse, feed that horse, take care of the horse, protect him as long as he can to keep that horse as great as he can be, because if not, it cuts into his overhead of what he's trying to do and the promotion of his sport and the promotion of the sport overall. So why would anybody try to, hurt an animal? I mean, it's like some of them barrel horses that are worth, $1 million, and they're out there, they're going to do everything they can to protect and take care of that animal,
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I see it. I deal in bucking horses and bulls myself, not necessarily even on the $50,000 level of 1980 money. But
it don't matter if you got one and you're using him and he's a part of your inventory. You're going to try to take care of him so you don't go in the hole.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, even today, just walking. I mean, a big bucking bull is $3,000 of going through the sale barn.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like them roping calves. I mean, they're roping $1,000 roping calf.
Golly, I don't know how those stock contractors do it in the roping events.
Well, the only way you could ever do it to me was, rope them calves till they get too big and then feed them. That's the only way you can make it work. Looks like to me, but
yeah, it's an expensive game to get into. I have no interest in being a stock contractor. Speaking of, like with working with Harry, what was it like to work with him day to day? What kind of...
He was like a second dad. He was just great. He had a great sense of humor. He was focused all the time. He didn't hide anything. If you were at the ranch working on stuff, he'd let you, this what we're planning for the day, or this what we're planning for the week, or whatever. We need to think about this. He was a real forward thinking guy. Taught all of us a lot about bucking horses. I mean, when I went to work for him, I'd been mostly around the bull business, working for the people that I work for, the rations, They were mostly in the big-time bull business, They sold a lot of big-time bulls that went on PRCA. They were world champion bulls. And they handled horses. They had bucking horses and stuff. But Harry was just so dialed into the bucking horse deal. The bull deal kind of got the old hat to me at that time. And I got so involved with, but teaching us about bucking horses and teaching us things about picking up, and moves you could make in the arena and stuff, getting on the right side of a bronc rein and making that move to get in position to do stuff, turning horses back. We turned a lot of horses back. Christian brothers, they were famous for it. Bobby Sr. was the master at turning horses back. Wayne Vole, you see the guy from Canada, he turns a lot of horses back, but being able to read it. But Harry taught a lot of stuff taught us a lot of stuff about life, being a man, doing the right thing. He was always big about doing the right thing, He was just great,
Yeah.
And if he ever really wanted you to do something, you didn't want to do it, when he said, "I gotta have you," you knew it was all over. He had you.
How much did he weigh in on the just the actual shoot bossing? Like, was he ever? I mean, did he like to really turn that over to you, or did he like to?
He pretty much, when he was, if I was picking up, he was up there horseback, kind of running the shoots on horseback, and the flank man, whoever was flanking at that time, was Mark Cotter, who was good, and all them guys trusted him, and he knew those bucking horses as good as anybody, or Frank Hines when he was around from Canada. And sometimes rodeo committees would have somebody up there, getting guys ready and helping and stuff too. But he and I talked a lot about getting horses to stand, getting the horse stand correctly, little tricks and things we could do. We discussed a lot of stuff about that. I was always big on trying anything. Some of those bronc riders, we would have some. We would get in disagreements about it. I said, well, let's try this. Well, I don't think that's going to work. We hadn't been doing it that way. That's never been done. Well, he's going to be tied in, and what can he do? What's the worst thing he can do? Have a little fit in there? I said, he ain't going to get you. Because I'm going to have him tied in. Because I usually, if I was running the shoots, I ran all the neck ropes, And so I knew them horses and knew them good. And so, but you just, a bucking horse, I'm like Billy Epbeyer. This was Billy Epbeyer's theory. A bucking horse in the chute is nothing but a saddle horse. Tied.
Yeah.
And that's how you got to kind of treat them, I mean, what's the worst thing they can do? Flip over? Well, if you got them tied in, they ain't going to flip over, If you got them tied correctly and you're paying attention. And, but you just got to get one in the right position. I mean, there's just so many little things you can do, pushing on one, pulling on one, letting him see another horse, A lot of times if a horse just ain't going to stand up, roll him, untrack him. The first year I went to NFR, Oklahoma City, they loaded the bucking horses like 30 minutes before the rodeo started. Well, we had 2 or 3 of them stalled bad. I mean, stalled bad. I said, I got to change this. So Howard Harris, he was back there loading bucking horses, and Buster Ivory was in charge. And Howard was a pretty good horseman. I said, I'm thinking about not rolling the horse all the way up the front, hold them back off there. Why? I said, would you see all them horses that stalled last night? He goes, yeah. I said, I think I can help that. He goes, we'll try it. So I want to get somebody, like him that'd been around it forever and been around the NFR and stuff. And I mean, it's my first year there, and I'm going to do something they had never done before. So anyway, the next night, I didn't roll them horses all the way up the front till right before we got ready to start pulling them, Well, they was all freed coming out there. So I just kept doing that, and I see people at rodeos doing that today.
Everybody.
I don't think they know why they're doing it. Some of them, I think they just do it because they saw it,
Yeah, I can remember any rodeo I've ever been to. Like, no, don't roll them to the front.
But you remember in the old days, they just load the chutes, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it got popular. They didn't roll them to the front,
Yeah.
And so, but that's the reason I started doing that, because to get them horses untracked. Especially in Vegas, them tight wound son of a guns. You had one there for 15 minutes. He's sure liable to stall.
Yeah,
and they still have to stand there about 14 minutes before you're going to get to buck one, but it's not 24 or 28 minutes. So you did untrack, you got him a little loosened up.
What else do you feel like you've helped influence?
Well, when I went there was no bucking order. There was just
whoever was ready.
It was kind of get the top 4 or 5 guys at the end, try to keep them at the end, And then you would get there and the guy, well, I need this horse up here, I need this horse back here. Well, they just load them. They load them in the order where you had to go back there and tell them how you wanted the horses loaded every night. That was your job. So I would go to Buster Ivory's room at 4 o'clock every day, and I'd have my list. I'd say, okay, this is how we're going to load them. And he'd have his pen. He had a pen that had red, blue, and all these different colors on it. And the blues were, the lefts were blues and the rights were red. And that's how he'd mark them. So I did that for a couple of years. I'd go over with him. And so I've been thinking about this the whole time. And so I finally got me a bunch of poster board. I drew out the entire plant of Oklahoma City, how it laid out. And every day I'd work on this project. So I finally come up with it, and I had it good enough to put on paper. So I go over one night to sit down with Buster and do the horses, and he wasn't quite ready, and Howard come by, and I said, hey, look at this. And it had a list of just the horses, just had the horses, the order I was going to load them in. Didn't have nobody's name, nothing else. It just had the horses listed. Howard said, you got another copy of that? And I said, yeah. He said, let me have it. So he said, well, be back there when you load. I said, okay. So I go through the deal with Buster. We mark the horses right and left. And so I'm back there in the alley, and Buster said, okay, bring. Well, that horse was standing there. Buster, he's looking. Bringo. Well, that horse is standing there. Well, about the third time this happens, he goes, you got a list back there? I said, yeah, we got our own list back here at the back. Well, he had a list too. So anyway, we finally let Buster on what was going on. But it just made things more efficient because, you knew exactly where, for example, Dale Brisby's on, My Fair Lady. You know exactly where he's going to end up and what chute and what order he's going to be in. Mm-hmm. So I started that in Oklahoma City. And I did it by hand for years, and pretty much anybody can do it. I mean, you just got to do it when you're loading your horse. The front load, you got to put them in reverse order to get them in the right order so they come in correctly. That's what you got to know. So the horse that's going to be bucked out fourth, he's got to come in first at Las Vegas, on the left-hand livery, So anyway, as time went on, I got a friend of mine who was a computer guru at Cheyenne. I said, this is what I'm doing on paper. I said, you think we can do this on a computer? I mean, PCs had barely come out. Mm-hmm. And he said, oh, yeah, I think we can do that. I said, you think you can teach me how to run one? He goes, that's going to be a major problem, I'm pretty sure. But anyway, he said, we'll work on that. So anyway, we got it all computerized. And because there were so many people involved in, you'd make your list, hand it to somebody else, they'd make their list, and they'd make a list. Well, there were some screw-ups along the way. Wrong horses were getting brought up. Horses were getting put on the wrong side. Well, when I put this thing on the computer and had a printout, and that was the sheet they had to work off of, it cut down on the mistakes. It cut down on the mistakes. For example, one year there, a horse got brought up. Kirby had two horses that looked exactly alike. Reception and Deception. They were both big roans. And they looked exactly alike. And we're walking down through the alley as the last performance on a Sunday afternoon. Everybody hated it. And Jade Robinson was helping me. He goes, I was thinking about something else. And he said, we're walking right past the Bronx. He said, he's got the wrong horse up here. I went, what? What'd you say? He said, that's the wrong horse. Well, I said, it's supposed to be Deception. He goes, well, that's Reception. I said, you sure? I said, let's look at his tag. Well, sure enough, he had the wrong horse in there. I went around there and I said, Sonny, you got the wrong horse back here. I do not. Yeah, you do. And so little things like that. So a guy in the last go-round has got to get on the re-ride. He don't get to get on the horse he's got. They were both good, but Deception was 4 or 5 points better than Reception, And so those were little things that, that were critical. To have the right horse up, have them on the correct side, or bull, either one. We had a bull one year that got loaded on the wrong side. Things like that shouldn't happen at the NFR,
Did they end up just bucking him?
We ended up bucking him.
How'd he do?
But it was okay. It wasn't a re-ride.
Yeah.
But I gave him the option. I said, you guys have to make the call.
You gave who the option?
The stock contractor. I said, if you want me to, I didn't know how I was going to get him out of the arena while the rodeo was going on. I didn't know how I was going to handle that, but I said, if you want me to switch sides, just tell me. They said, no, just buck him there.
Is it not? I mean, with the bull being loaded on is that not a good enough reason to just spill him and then bring him back?
We'd had done the right thing, and the stock contractor wanted me to do the right thing. If he said no, I'm not going to buck him on this side. But I'm like hired Harris. If a bull bucks, he ought to buck anywhere, including out of a shotgun chute. If they really buck, if they've been road tested.
Right.
Excuse me. But that was one thing that I think that I added to the NFR, the production, having that sheet. Those guys could walk by there at night. When we posted in their room every night, an hour before the rodeo, they could walk by there and look and see when they were up, where they were at, who they were following. It helped them to kind of be ready. And middle of the game, you didn't have to stay on them and say, hey, there's, Dale, there's 8 ahead of you, there's 4 ahead of you, whatever,
Have you ever had a streaker? Somebody come through the arena?
Not there.
Like a fan or something?
No.
What about Cheyenne?
Never seen one at Cheyenne. There was one in the Wizard Rodeo, California somewhere.
Yeah.
Can't remember where it was at.
Figures.
Yeah.
He was a streaker, or he just went in the arena?
I think that was a striker they had in California, but there was some guy got in an arena somewhere one time. I think it was at El Paso, maybe. A guy got in the arena, got mucked out by a bull before we got him out of there. He just jumped over in there, you know.
I remember there's a video of one guy jumping into the clown act, and Liesl Harris beat the crap out of him.
Yeah, you did not mess with Liesl Harris's acts. You did not.
Well, and it was
mess
it was
with him.
Liesl's son that was in the
Matt.
Yeah, that was in the costume.
In the robot costume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oof. Yeah.
That Liesl, I tell you one thing, he was fantastic.
Yeah.
And a fantastic guy.
Yeah.
Funny. Oh my! He was funny out. You know, guys like him and Quell Dobbs and Chuck Henson and Rick Young, they were funny outside the arena. They were just funny all the time. You could just walk up to them and start talking. Next thing you know, you'd be laughing about something.
Yeah. Rudy Burns.
Rudy. Oh yeah.
Love Rudy Burns.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, those guys.
How did you tie a horse in?
With a neck rope.
Right, but I mean, like what? You like one twist in between the horse and
one twist in between the horse off the horse's neck. And for me, when I tied a horse on the outside, if it was left-handed delivery, I took the right-hand rope over the left. If it was on right-hand delivery, it was left-hand over the right. That's just the way I did it, you know. And that way, I think it came off your bottom strand easiest.
So you hold on to the bottom.
Hang on to the bottom, yeah. And that way it didn't hang. Now you're going to get every now and then you're going to get hung. It's going to catch in that. It's going to catch in that halter.
Depending on how they leave.
Depending on how they, especially if they duck their nose and do like that, you just got to turn it loose to save the bronc rider and not try to cripple him, you know. But everybody's got caught with one leaving there with it on there, you know.
Yeah, you hate to pull a guy's
foot back or get his arm, you know, and
which would be another good reason for the replay, you know, if he did pull his foot back.
Exactly.
But
exactly. Or I'll give you a prime example of a call that was made to Oklahoma City one time. Ricky Boland was on this bull, and he was laying bad in there. And I'm behind the buck and chute trying to get this bull stood up, and somebody said something. Ricky said, "Yeah, okay." And I said, "He's nodding." And I knew right then that he wasn't nodding. He was talking to somebody else. I realized way open the gate. This bull one jumps Ricky right there. And I went around there. He looked, and I said, "I'll go talk to him." I said, "Guys, that was not Ricky's fault. That was my fault. I made the call. Call was wrong." And he did not, okay? So they gave him a re-ride.
Dang.
So Ricky gets re-ride and rides his re-ride. And he goes, "I'm glad you did that." I go, "Why?" He goes, "I didn't think I could ride Pat. Pat was a bull he had of Sutton's. He was a black bull that turned back. I didn't think I could ride him anyway."
Dang, that's funny. Free resistals for life.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Isn't it same Ricky Boland runs?
Same Ricky Boland.
Yeah,
he went to NFR 4
yeah.
times in the bull riding.
Yeah, sorry, Ricky. I wear an American. But
yeah. I've always been a resistol guy.
Yeah.
And Americans are great people, and I've knew Keith Maddox for many, many years. Keith rode bulls and bareback horses good.
Yeah, I heard he was real tough.
He was a good cowboy.
Yeah. I know Keith and Ricky get along.
Oh, yeah.
Got along.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
R.I.P. Keith Maddox. He had a lot of cool stories.
Oh, he was hilarious.
Man,
he had some great stories and wrote well, you know.
I would have loved to got him on the podcast.
He's done a great job with their brand. America's done a fantastic job, and I mean, they've got a good product. There's no doubt about it.
They signed the best bull rider in the whole world.
They did?
Dale Brisby.
Did not know that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So have you ever been to their plant?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. Yeah. In Bowie. It's not far.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Keith Mundy, president.
Yep.
Now. But yeah, Keith's been on the podcast. Keith's got some stories. But no, I wish I could have gotten Keith Maddox on. He was sharp. He had a lot of good stories. I wish I could remember that bull rider that he used to always tell stories about that worked for him on and off. Man, I wish I could remember that because you might know him, but there's no way.
He had a bar he owned in Torrance, Wyoming.
Yeah, this bull rider would run it.
Doc's Bar.
Yeah.
He owned it several times. He sell it and get it back.
Yeah. Yeah, he said this bull, I can't remember who it was. He was a world champ or something. I want to say he was a world champ, but would run that bar. And Keith said he got a call that the guy running the bar, the bull rider, had beat somebody with an axe handle or something, like just in a fight, like the guy was fighting or something. And he got up there to Torrington to that, and he was like, "Hey, what about this axe handle?" And he was like, first thing he said was, "Took 2 swings off my golf game." From But anyway, yeah.
Yeah, when I first knew Keith, he was riding bareback horses and bulls, and I'm pretty sure he was a rep for Tony Lama
Yes,
and somebody else. He had a couple of products.
I think you're right.
But
yeah,
I know
remember
that
the Tony Lama.
Lou Talbot, Casper, Wyoming, that's one of his big accounts he had.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's from Idaho.
Yeah, I can't remember. I'm sure you're right. Yeah,
I used to know too.
yeah.
Yeah, he came in. I saw him in a lot of rodeos.
Yeah, he rode bulls, right?
Rode barebacks and bulls. Mostly
and-
rode bareback horses real good, but I seen him ride some bulls too.
All of y'all rode bareback horses back then.
I think pretty much everybody did. It was just, and then you got guys like Jim Houston I'm a big guy, but he was bigger than me. He's a 2-time world champion.
Yeah.
And John Edwards, he was every bit as big as me and was average winner at the finals and went, I think probably 10 times.
Jimmy Cleveland.
Jimmy Cleveland, he rode phenomenal.
There's a guy here that works for me now. His name's Zach Cleveland, and I call him Jimmy Cleveland, and nobody knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, Jimmy, he was a little bit out there, but he could ride.
Yeah. I met him when I was
And he could ride bulls too.
I met him when I was about 7 years old, and I remember back then thinking he was a little bit out there. As a
He was
7-year-old.
singing to a different song then, but
Yeah.
didn't he have any effect on his bareback riding?
Yeah. Weren't there'd be like sometimes more bareback riders than bull riders in the 70s and 80s. Was that the case?
It seemed to me ran about the same. The bareback ride and the bull ride ran about the same. At Cheyenne, they would take, for years, 96 bareback riders, 96 bronc riders, and I think 140 bull riders. That was the kind of the magic number. Now, they didn't always fill up in the bareback riding, but the bronc riding and bull riding, it'd always fill up.
Do you think the NFR will ever leave Vegas?
I don't know where they would go to have what they have there. It's just the money's there, all the opportunities there. I mean, you think about from the time that we started in Las Vegas in 1985, the first 2 years on a Sunday afternoon, you could have shot a shotgun off on a Sunday afternoon and not hurt anybody very serious. There was nobody there. I mean, it was
Really?
Yeah, it was unbelievable. And then all of a sudden, it took off. But that first year on Sunday afternoon, I bet it wasn't even half full.
Dang.
Yeah, there was nobody there, and everybody hated those Sunday afternoon performances. The 10th performance, it was terrible. Benny Butler and I, for years, tried to get them ended on Saturday night. I don't know if we had anything to do with it, but we felt like we wrote them enough that they at least listened to us. But they finally moved it, And I said they were worried about getting those committees in there and keeping them in there another day. And Benny said, "Well, you're going to get them a day earlier anyway, so they got to be there another day at least."
Yeah.
So, but it was, and then all of a sudden it took off, and of course, about that time, about 85, when we moved out there, is when I was working for Copenhagen, and we became a sponsor because Winston got out, and so we were having all kind of customers that wanted to come to Vegas, the rodeo. Really, they really just wanted to come to Vegas, But coming to the rodeo was part of it. So we managed all the tickets out of our office. When I worked for Walt, we did. And when he retired, I took all that over. But we had like 24 plaza seats, and we had a suite. And then later on, I negotiated and got another 12 gold buckle seats. We had 4 gold buckle seats, and I tried to get them to buy more. They wouldn't do it. But then later on, they became so popular, we had to go back to renegotiate and got 12 more. So we had to manage all them seats every night. But it was you couldn't hardly find a ticket. I mean, it got to the point about the 4th year, it was tough to get a ticket.
Dang.
But it took it several years to really take off.
I guess, that makes sense, because everybody, obviously there'd be people that were just felt the nostalgia of being at Oklahoma City. They just didn't want.
You had all the naysayers.
They didn't
Oklahoma
want
City.
the change to
They
happen.
didn't want change.
But then some people just had to get used to traveling.
Well, the other thing about it too,
Out
and
there,
it was not ideal in Thomas and Mack when we first started in there.
It's kind of a jog from the Strip.
Well, here's the thing about it. Back there where the Buck and Stock and where the main alley is, there's 2 actual alleys there. But the first 3 years we were there was a trash compactor in one of those alleys.
Ooh.
So you only had one alley. All the bucking horses had to come around to go in to load them in the bucking chutes and then go back around that trash compactor. And then, you had one alley. There was no entrance for the time eventers. There was no tunnel back there where the time eventers come in now. They had to go down the moat in the arena. It was a logistic nightmare first few years till we got all that. It took years to get. Well, they finally got that trash compactor out there, which freed up that main alley for just contestants. And they finally got the other end opened up down there to bring the time eventers in, which was better for them,
Right. Yeah, imagine I can see, it took a little time to build that
Oh yeah,
going through there.
hell yeah. You get that where everything was really logistic, and the deal was, and this has always been a controversy, but in the negotiations supposedly were when they moved to Las Vegas in 5 years, they were going to have build an arena specifically for the NFR. Well, for some reason, their feet never got held to the fire, so nobody ever did anything different. So they're still in the same arena they've been in, and they were supposed to have an arena built specifically for the NFR specs and the whole 9 yards, which is sad to think about now because, there's 17,000 whatever seats in there, and really I think you could sell 25,000 seats a night and still have that intimacy like they had. I mean, it's very intimate. And you've been in Thomas and Mack, right?
Yes, sir.
You know how intimate it is, if you're sitting down there, if you're in any plaza seat anywhere, I mean, you're just right there on top of it, there is no other sport in the world where you're right on top of it like that. I mean, think about how far a football fan sits from the field,
Right.
And but I still think they could have a facility that would seat 25,000 that they could sell out every night and still have that intimacy that it has.
Yeah, I heard that. I mean, and this has been a few years since I heard this number, but I think it's 18,000 fit in Thomas and Mack, somewhere close to it.
17.9.
So if that's 10 nights of that, then, and let's say they're all different people, that's 180,000 people. But I was doing some work for LVE a few years back, and they said at that time it was 400,000 people that would come to Vegas for the NFR. So you got a lot of people going out there that aren't even going to go to the Thomas and Mack. So I agree with you. I mean, if you did, right now the only other place would be the T-Mobile, or I guess you could do the football stadium, but that would be something holding north of 18, upwards of, I bet the T-Mobile holds a lot more than 25.
Is a football stadium right down there on the west end of town right there? Is it behind the Union Plaza?
It's catty corner across the interstate from T-Mobile. You know where T-Mobile is?
I've never been to it.
It's right next to New York. So that intersection of the Boulevard and Tropicana,
yep.
T-Mobile's just right there.
Okay.
And then the football stadium, I can't remember what they call it, is across the highway and just over.
Well, used to when you'd go down downtown Vegas, in the old town, behind the Union Plaza, there was 85 acres. It sat right there by the interstate where 80 and whatever that other interstate is crosses there. And
15 maybe?
Huh?
15?
15 and 80, yeah. And Michael Gaughan's dad, Jackie Gaughan, said that'd be a perfect place to build the NFR and build the NFR arena, that 85 acres there. And I don't know, he really tried to push on that pretty good, I think, and it would have been a great location. I mean, you got access from two major interstates right there,
Well, do you still go out for the South Point?
I haven't been out there since 2014. The last year I was in Vegas.
So you just did that deal a couple of years.
Yeah, I did
World
that.
Series.
I did work for the World Series for 2 years. Yeah, did that for 2 years. And
because the South Point has just got everything.
yeah,
If that little arena wasn't could hold more than 3,500 people, I mean they have the
it's
NFR out there.
it's a nice facility. It's just it's just small.
Golly, I went out there once or twice for vacation. Took my grandmother. She liked to gamble, and we just went to the South Point and never left. for like 3 days.
Oh yeah, everything you can eat is in there. You know.
Oh my gosh, yeah. What's your favorite place to? Where they would keep you at South Point, I imagine, huh?
Well, when I worked for Copenhagen, I was always in charge of where we stayed for some reason, but that's where I was always got us the host hotel. So when we first were out there, we were different here and there. So when I got to doing the NFR and got to be friends with Michael Gone, we kind of, when they opened up the Orleans, we moved over to the Orleans. And he kind of hinted around he'd like to have us over there. So I said, okay. So when they opened up the South Point, we were actually in a meeting in Providence, Rhode Island at the Copenhagen School Conference Center, and I said, yeah, they're building a new hotel out there out south of town. I said, I said, pretty much where Michael Gone goes, that's where everybody goes, you know. And in those days, I don't know how it is now, but that's how it was then. And I said, the rodeo crowd, that's where they're going to be, and all this stuff that they got going on out there, that's where kind of where we need to be. And so they said, well, yeah, I'll go ahead and give him a call. So one of the guys up there said, yeah, like he's going to call you back. So they have an intercom at the conference center. So about 3 hours after I called him, this intercom comes on and said, Darrell Barron, you got a call from Michael Gone from Las Vegas. I'm like, yeah, okay, I showed you guys, didn't I?
Yeah,
anyway,
that's funny.
I said, you want us to move out there? He said, well, I can't tell you that. And I said, you want a business, don't you? Oh, I want your business. So basically, after a few minutes, I finally figured out he couldn't tell me he wanted me to move out there, but he said, I said, I'll give the girls a call. I said, give the girls a call. So we moved out there. So we stayed. That's the only place I really ever stayed.
The Orleans?
Yeah, we went from the Orleans to the South Point.
To the South Point,
yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we went to the South Point. But before that, I had stayed at every hotel in town. We stayed at the Landmark. It seemed like every time we'd stay at one, the next year they would implode it. So the Landmark is where we started out. We stayed there. Well, first of all, we started out at the Continental. It was a dud. It was awful. Stayed there. The next year, I said, if that's where they put us up, I'm going to get my own room somewhere else.
Yeah.
So the next year they moved us to Landmark. Well, the next year they imploded. The next year we went down south somewhere. I mean, I stayed everywhere. Then I finally got upgraded and got a suite at the Golden Nugget. Mm-hmm. So I stayed down there a couple of years.
What?
Zandy Karn, she took pretty good care of me. She was working for Las Vegas Events, and she made sure I had a good room.
Yeah. No, it's a good crew. At the LVE, I enjoy working with them.
Who you work with out there?
Michael.
Michael, is he still there?
Yeah. And then, geez, what's his name? I'm gonna have to.
Not Mike Matt, is it?
No, Bo Gardner.
Yeah.
And Michael Mack.
Michael Mack. That's his name. Michael Mack. That's him. Yeah.
And there was another guy out there that I used to work with. He's since left and moved
Pat
on to
Christensen.
I've not ever worked with Pat.
Yeah, he was there.
Yeah. But Michael Mack is, who I would work with, and then Bo.
What about Tim Keener? That's the new president. You worked with him?
I've not ever visited with him. No, sir.
I think he's still the president. He was last.
I'm sure he is.
I know. But he worked there for years.
What kind of impact did Benny Binion have on the rodeo out there?
Well,
everybody talks about him, but I don't know.
He was the one that Sean Davis and him were friends, and I think he and Sean got talking about moving the rodeo to Vegas. Mr. Binion said this have great opportunities there. Get casinos behind the sport, add some extra money to the rodeo, and that was how Mr. Binion was a big push behind that. He was the main reason it went to Las Vegas, because he was a big promoter of the finals coming to Vegas. He's a huge rodeo fan.
What did he have to do with the industry outside of being a fan of it?
Well, he had Mr. Binion. Of course, he was in the ranch business and raised a lot of bucket horses. A lot of bucket horses. Survey had a lot of bucket horses that came from Binion, and a lot of pickup horses that came from Mr. Binion.
Mm-hmm.
But he just was always a big rodeo fan.
Was he as much of like a Vegas type gangster as people seem to talk about?
I don't know that.
Not in a derogatory sense.
No,
he just seems like
he never was to me. He was always, just Mr. Binion,
Right.
I was fortunate enough to have go lunch with him a couple times. Me and him and Walt Garrison had lunch a couple times together, and he's pretty cool to be around, you know.
That's what I've always heard. I've not heard a bad thing about him. I say gangster and more of like just like the, the Robert De Niro type kind of like old school, like get things done by any means necessary.
Yeah.
But anyhow,
he started out. They were trailing horses. He lived up around Gainesville or somewhere. They would trail horses down to Fort Worth and sell them.
Yeah.
You know. And then he got into when reading the book. All I can tell you, but read the book about him. You know, he got into gambling and doing stuff in Dallas. You know, and then they asked him to move somewhere else, and that's how he ended up in Vegas. You know, and
maybe I'll just read the book.
Yeah, it's good reading.
Yeah, what's it called?
The Greenfield Jungle, I believe is the name of it.
Yeah. Cool. Well, is there anything else about NFR or Chute Bossing or your history that I missed?
I don't think so. We think we pretty much covered everything.
Yeah.
For this time, maybe something will come up next time.
Yeah, I'll do a follow-up. We usually wrap up with life advice.
Life advice?
Yeah. Do you have any life advice for me?
If you don't know God, it'd be a good time to find him.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. You being around a lot of rodeo cowboys right before they ride, that's usually a pretty spiritual moment for somebody.
It is. It's pretty spiritual for a lot of guys getting on, you know. No doubt about it. And, you know, the big thing about I talked about early on was like learning guys' idiosyncrasies. And I think that was important to keep them on their game plan. If you kind of knew what their routine was and stuff, you know, and you could not take away from them, you know, by, you know, throwing an apple cart and, for example, go up and say, oh, by the way, you're supposed to be seventh, but you're going to be second. You know, what? You know, but if you can keep a guy on his game plan and know all of the little things about him that would help you to make him as comfortable as he can in his transition from getting on to nodding his head. And I think that was key.
Mm-hmm. You seem like, I mean, you hear stories about Benny and guys that, you know, chute bosses that are just, you know, a little more unfriendly at times, but I've always felt like you were super friendly about it.
I try to be as friendly as I could be because that was you're trying to, you know, help people get out of there. But there was times when you had to stand your ground and tell some guy he was screwing off and it was time to nod his head. Mm-hmm. Those times came with a lot of different people. You know, it seemed to be the same people, you know, that were, you know, you was having those issues with. But for the most part, like I said, if most guys are just wanting to nod their head and not be too distracted about like what they were doing. And so if you could keep them in that mode, you know, things were much smoother for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was getting ready to, we were at Cheyenne one year and Harry had just got the rodeo. And so I was in charge of sorting stock and running the chutes at the same time. And I was also entered. So we were back there sorting horses one morning. Well, I knew it. At one time, I probably knew 1,000 horses on site, from Harry's to Dale Halls to Flying, everybody that we were dealt with, you know. We were back there sorting horses that morning, and we're trying to find this buckskin horse of Dale Halls. I knew he was a buckskin, but this horse had brands everywhere, and we were looking for a 12. We couldn't put nothing together that would even make a 12.
Yeah.
But by process of elimination, we figured out this was the horse that we needed, and it was a horse that I had in the bareback ride, and I'd never seen him. And I knew all Dale's stuff. Of course, I ain't got time to go get on the phone and call him, you know. So anyway, I run this horse up in there, and I'm getting ready to put my rigging on him, and Chris LeDoux comes by. I said, who's got this son of a gun? I said, me. He goes, oh, I said, you have him? Had him at Sykeston. He said, boy, he's a bad son of a gun in here. He said he tried to do the alligator roll and everything. I said, no way. I said, I'm going to get this necker up on him. You come back and tie it. He said, okay. Yeah. So anyway, I run my hand there. When I cracked it back, he went to do the alligator roll and got my foot just pinned on this gate. I mean, they had these brand new square chutes, and he got my ankle pinned. Somebody said, what you been doing? I said, open the gate.
Dang.
And so anyway, but, you know, stuff like that today, you know, would have been a catastrophe. You know, we just laughed off, you know, but.
Yeah. That's awesome getting to, I mean, you've got to see all the legends.
Oh, yeah.
Chris LeDoux from, you know, to the The Ty and Lane and
Yeah.
Tough and
Joe
Jim Sharp
Alexander's,
there.
Billy Etbyers, you know,
Yeah.
Rod Lyman's, I mean, T. Woolman's. I mean, all them guys got to watch them guys firsthand, you know, that were.
All the ties all around.
Oh, yeah, Ty. His run was unbelievable.
Trevor coming around. I mean, you got to, like that year, them I think it was 3 times he won the Triple Crown.
Yep.
Got to see those.
And, you know, Trevor was one of our sponsored contestants on the Copenhagen Skull team. So
right.
Got to go up there and rope a few times with him at his place. And when you went up there and roped at Trevor's place, you didn't just go up there and rope a couple. You roped for a while.
Yeah.
Like all day.
Yeah, you spend any time with him and you realize, like, there's a reason he's the champ.
The guy worked hard at his craft. I
right.
mean, he worked extremely hard. He put in the time and the effort, and the thing about him is he could just, you know, if he have a mess up, he could just forget about it and move on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where some guys couldn't do that. I think Ty and those guys. I think those guys that are excel in their sport, whatever event it is. That, you know, if they have a mess up or screw up or blow an opportunity, you know, they're able to just move on past that and not carry that with them, you know.
Trevor said in our podcast, and it blew my mind, he said, somebody asked him, how many do or die situations have you been in? And he said, none. Because, you know, and he said guys put themselves in a do or die situation where it's the end of the world if they lose. And he said, if you don't win now, go to the next one. Win the next one. Give yourself an opportunity to, and it was such a simple concept that, you know, even blew my mind. You would think that, and then it made sense that you see him backing into the box about to win a Triple Crown or whatever, or just a world title or a go round, and it was the same every time.
Yeah, his theory was that there's never a closed door.
Yeah. Yeah, I people ask me, you know, we've done almost 300 podcasts. Which one's my favorite?
Really?
And yeah, for sure. Yeah, this is like 290, 280,
wow,
something like that. And my favorite has been Trevor's.
Well, he's a fabulous individual.
It's crazy, and it's wild to me how humble he is. Because and I was telling somebody that, you know, there's guys that I know that have either made it to the NFR once or just the circuit finals, and their heads are so big they can't fit through the door. But Trevor has 26 gold buckles, and if he met Ryan, who's been on 5 broncs, he'll remember Ryan's name in a week.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's like nobody is too important for him. But then you got these guys that, anyways, his humility, once I've gotten to know him, has just blown me away. I think he's a stand-up human. I'm a big fan of Trevor's.
No, I said, and you know, the thing about him, he was so great because when he was one of our sponsored contestants, you know, you never had to worry about him. He was always dressed up to the nines, you know, looked like he was, you know, rock star status the whole time. You could take him into one of them promotion meetings we had, or a national sales meeting with 2,000 people. He could get up there and talk. You know, he was just the ultimate sponsoree you could have, you know, because he excelled in the arena and he excelled outside the arena. You know, people gravitated, you know, everybody wants to gravitate toward a champion anyway, you know.
For sure.
And he was great. We were lucky to have people like him. You know, we had him. We had some great contestants. We had, you know, Ross Coleman. We had, you know, Justin McBride.
Yeah.
We had Jesse Bale, Cody Demers. We had Steve Duhon. I mean, we had some Deb Greeno.
Yeah.
We had some big time people, you know, through the years.
Yeah. Jesse Bale, man, I was a big fan of his. I'd love to have him on the podcast. Bulls and Broncs. Did he go to the NFR in the bull riding?
And bull riding and the bronc riding. Yeah,
I know he was a good bull rider.
He missed all around 1 year just in the last couple performances. Things went downhill for him, you know.
Dang.
And he was right. I mean, he was right there.
Yeah.
And that might have been Trevor's first or second all around that year. That
I drove his van back from Tucson once. I never got to Jesse.
Well, if you ever want to get a hold of him, I know how to get a hold of him.
I'm going to get his number from you.
He doesn't talk a whole lot, you know.
Yeah.
He's pretty quiet.
I do remember that.
He ain't nothing but a cowboy. That's all he is.
I bet he's still got some cool stories.
Oh, yeah.
Dirty tough.
Oh, yeah. Very tough.
Dirty tough. Yeah, we set up at the NFR at my Airbnb. I try to get 1 or 2 podcasts a day in just because, it's just
really?
everybody comes in there. And so try to get that, maybe meet him there or something. But cool. Who was a big fan? Who's one of the people that you remember most being excited to watch shoot bossing at the NFR? Like who's just like, man, I'm glad so-and-so made it. I really, looking back.
Man, there's been a ton of them, but I guess probably my favorite guy to watch was guys like Billy Etbar and Rod Hay, Dan Mortensen. I mean, when Dan Mortensen rode Cool Alley, not Cool Alley, but Painted Smile, one of the best bronc rides I ever seen. Of course, when Billy rode Painted Smile or Cool Alley. I mean, those
moments are just
unbelievable, to watch those guys in that moment,
yeah, those are big. Yeah, it's wild that you're just front row the entire time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And there's been some phenomenal rides out there through the years, it's hard to even compartmentalize them to remember which ones were so rare, that were unique and rare. But like, seeing Jim ride his 10th bull and seeing Norman Curry ride his 10th bull and Adriano Moraes ride his 10th bull. I mean, those are historical moments, it's only happened 3 times, may or may not ever happen again. Who knows? It's like the guy from Canada won 5 rounds in the steer wrestling this year. And I apologize, I can't think of his name because I should know it. But to win all 5 go rounds at your Canadian finals, phenomenal. His dad won 3 one year. But
that's wild.
It was good watching.
Yeah. Cool. Well, if you think of any more stories, write them down. We'll do a follow-up.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm sure I can dig through the archives, and I've got some real funny stories one day. Well, what you need to do here one day is get me and Mark Baker both here.
Okay.
And we'll tell funny stories.
There you go.
We got a bunch of wrecks that happened, like the wreck with this bull ride deal we didn't get to today.
Right.
But we got some great ones.
That's awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on, and hopefully maybe you'll make it back out to Vegas one year. We'll get to hang out at the NFR again.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. So everybody, thank y'all so much for listening and watching. RodeoTime.com. I'm Dale Brisby. I'm on to the next one, old son.